All right, so you know how it is like when you're trying to learn something new in tech and it feels like you need like a secret decoder ring just to understand the
Yeah,
basics?
totally.
We've all been there, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So today we're going to cut through all that noise and we're diving straight into the
Yeah.
core of developing for Adobe Commerce Cloud.
Love it.
So think of this deep dive as it's like a shortcut
Right.
to understanding what really matters when it comes to commerce development.
I like it.
We've taken a really close look at the material that surrounds the Adobe Commerce Developer Professional exam,
Nice.
and we're pulling out the good stuff, the key insights.
Awesome.
That's AD0-E724 for those who like the specifics. Whether or not you're planning on taking that exam, these concepts are honestly crucial for anyone
Absolutely.
who is working with this powerful platform.
Yeah, for sure.
So our mission today is really straightforward.
Okay.
We want to understand the essential development practices and the features that these types of exam questions, they highlight. So we're not just interested in, the right answer, but we really want to explore, like, why are those answers significant?
For sure. Yeah.
In the reality of, building and maintaining these e-commerce sites every day.
Exactly. Yeah, the day-to-day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So with that said, let's get started.
Okay.
So let's start with something super foundational.
All right.
How developers securely access the resources they need within Adobe Commerce Cloud.
Absolutely.
So imagine you're building a new feature on a Commerce Cloud project.
Okay.
And you need to connect to the database to pull product info.
Yeah.
Or maybe you need to interact with the caching layer to speed things up. You've got the right permissions and everything.
Right.
But where do you find those connection details?
Exactly.
Like there's not like a big neon sign that's pointing to the MySQL password.
Yeah, absolutely not, no.
So what do you do?
So what you do is you can actually, there's two main ways that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
So the first one is using the project web interface.
Okay.
And in the environment settings there, you'll find a section called environment variables.
Okay.
And that's basically your configuration central.
Okay.
It's a really user-friendly way to see all sorts of configuration parameters. And it's very common to find the credentials for things like MySQL or Redis or Elasticsearch in there.
Right. It's like your control panel for the cloud environment.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Super well organized, and you can just grab what you need super quick.
It's the fastest way, for sure, for developers just to get into grab those credentials and move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other way, and this is super powerful, is to use the Magento Cloud CLI.
Okay.
And the command you'd use is Magento Cloud Relationships.
Interesting.
And what this does is it lets you dynamically retrieve those connection credentials.
Oh, wow.
So in your terminal, you run that command, and it spits out all those connection credentials that you need
That's awesome.
for your services.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting here is that it not only gives you the credentials, but it also gives you details on how all of these services connect to each other in the cloud.
That's amazing.
So like, how does the database connect to the caching and the search engine, all those integrations? You can actually see how they're related to each other.
That's so cool. I never even thought of that.
Yeah, it's a nice little feature.
That's cool. So we've got like the visual point and click, and then we've got the command line.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the practice questions also mentioned config.php and env files. Why wouldn't those be the go-to methods in the cloud?
That's a great question. So in a traditional like self-hosted Magento installation, config.php is your go-to. That's where all the juicy configuration information lives. But in Adobe Commerce Cloud, for security reasons and for centralized management, you don't really interact with that file directly.
Gotcha.
In the same way.
So the cloud platform kind of abstracts that away.
It does, exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then .env files.
Right.
Those are really common in local development environments.
Okay.
So, when you're working on your computer, you'll often have a .env file to store sensitive information.
Makes sense.
But in the live cloud environment, that's not typically where the credentials are stored.
Interesting. Okay, so the main takeaway here is that Commerce Cloud gives you these specific secure mechanisms, the web interface and the CLI to access those vital service credentials. So you got to use the tools that are designed for this cloud-native environment.
For sure.
Okay, now let's shift gears and talk about how we can make these e-commerce sites blazing fast.
Everyone wants a fast website, right?
Always.
Where speed is key.
So the next area we're going to explore is performance optimization through caching.
Okay, love it.
And we're going to focus specifically on custom blocks.
All right.
So say you've created a really cool custom block, maybe in the website footer.
Okay.
But you notice it's loading slowly and it's impacting the whole page.
Right.
What's the most direct way to tell Magento to remember that block's output?
Exactly.
So it doesn't have to regenerate it every single time.
Yeah, good question.
So what's the bare minimum that you have to do?
So the bare minimum that you need to do is set one property.
Okay.
And it's called cache lifetime.
Okay. Simple as that.
Simple as that.
It's just one property.
Yeah. And it's measured in seconds.
Okay.
So you just tell Magento's caching framework how long you want to store the generated HTML output of that block.
Gotcha. And
once you set that lifetime, the system takes over from there.
Awesome.
So within that time frame, any request for that block, it's just going to serve it straight from the cache.
Nice.
It doesn't have to regenerate it.
So it's like giving Magento a temporary memory.
Yeah, I love that analogy. It's like, hey, I already did this.
Yeah.
Just remember it for like the next 10 seconds or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, now the question also mentions catch key.
Right.
What's that all about?
So catch key, that's a really important part
of
Magento's caching system.
Yeah.
It's basically the unique identifier
that
Magento uses to tell the difference between different cached versions of the same block.
Gotcha.
Especially like when the output of the block can change based on, who the user is or some other data.
Okay.
But it's not actually required to turn on caching.
Gotcha.
You can just use cache lifetime if you want to cache something.
Interesting. So cache key is more for specific control over how the cached content is invalidated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll use that in more complex scenarios where you need fine-grained control.
Okay, cool. So the takeaway here is that even setting cache lifetime can have a big positive impact on your site's performance. It's huge.
Yeah.
Because you're just letting Magento use its built-in caching capabilities.
Yeah, it knows what it's doing.
Okay, so now let's move from how the website performs to the data that powers your online store.
Yeah, that's important too.
That's super important.
The data itself.
Yes. Product attributes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do you define those characteristics of your products? It's like the heart of e-commerce.
Totally. So the material highlighted these default attribute types that are available out of the box in Commerce. And the two that we're going to focus on are price and Boolean.
The foundational ones.
Exactly. Now, price seems pretty self-explanatory. It's how much the product costs.
Right.
But I'm guessing there's more to it than that.
Yeah, so price actually supports a lot of crucial e-commerce features.
Okay.
So, for example, it can handle tier pricing.
Okay.
So if someone buys more, they get a discount.
Right.
It can also handle special sales prices. And you can set start and end dates for those sales.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's really built for all things pricing and promotions.
Wow. So it's not just storing a number.
Right.
It's connected to all that logic.
Exactly. It's tied to the logic of the platform.
Very cool. Yeah. And then we've got Boolean.
Yeah. Boolean.
Which might sound kind of technical.
A little bit.
But it's basically just a yes or no choice.
That's it? Yeah, simple.
So simple.
Yeah.
Think of all those product settings that are just on or off.
Yeah, like is the product visible on the storefront?
Exactly.
Is it in stock?
Yeah.
Is it eligible for a promotion?
Totally.
Boolean handles all of that.
Yeah. Super clean and efficient.
Totally.
Now, the questions also listed date and time and color picker as potential defaults. But those aren't the ones that you get right away, are they?
No, they're not.
Yeah.
So while those are super useful for certain product characteristics, you typically add them as custom attributes if you need them. The really core product information, the price, and those yes-no toggles, those are covered by price and Boolean.
Okay, cool. So understanding these fundamental types gives you a solid foundation for managing your product data in Commerce.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's head back to the cloud environment now and talk about how you set up new working spaces. So let's say you've got your primary Commerce cloud environment that's running your live site.
Right.
But you need separate spaces to test new features or experiment with code or fix bugs.
You don't want to break the live site.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how do you create those new testing environments?
So again, this is where the cloud-native approach comes in.
Okay.
And remember, Adobe Commerce Cloud is really tightly integrated with Git, the version control system.
Okay.
So the way you create a new environment is by using the Magento Cloud CLI.
Okay.
And the specific command is Magento Cloud Environment .branch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And what this does is it treats your environments as Git branches.
Wow.
So when you run that command, you're essentially making a copy of an existing environment.
Cool.
Maybe your staging environment or even your production environment. And it includes the code base and the database.
Nice.
Yeah. So this ensures that you've got consistency across all your environments.
Right.
Which is crucial for testing.
Absolutely.
And it just mirrors that familiar Git workflow that most developers are already comfortable with.
Totally. That sounds way more efficient than trying to do it manually through the web interface.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Or like copying files around.
Yeah.
The question also mentioned submitting a support ticket to create a new environment. That seems like a bit much.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to do that.
For a common task.
Yeah, creating new environments is something that developers do all the time.
Right.
So the platform is designed to let you do that quickly and easily yourself.
Yeah.
Using the CLI.
Makes sense. So submitting a ticket would just slow you down?
Totally, yeah.
And it would probably slow the support team down, too.
Absolutely.
So learn that CLI command.
Yes, definitely.
It's a must-know for Commerce Cloud.
It's fundamental.
Okay, and for our final topic.
Okay, last one.
Let's talk about the advantages that you get just by using Adobe Commerce Cloud.
Yeah, the built-in feature.
Exactly. What comes out of the box?
Right out of the box.
So you don't have to configure everything yourself.
Exactly.
Okay, so the two features that the material highlighted are automatic scaling and Fastly CDN integration.
Good ones.
Yeah, so automatic scaling.
Right.
It sounds incredibly important.
It is super important.
Especially for businesses that have like big swings in traffic.
Yeah, like if you have a big sale or something.
Yeah, exactly. Black Friday.
Black Friday for sure.
Cyber Monday.
Yep.
So can you explain how it works?
Yeah, so basically Adobe Commerce Cloud can adjust its resources automatically.
Okay.
So if you get a sudden surge in visitors, the platform can scale up to handle that traffic.
And I don't have to do anything.
You don't have to lift a finger.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's all automatic.
So it just keeps the site running smoothly.
Yeah, no crashes, no slowdowns.
That's huge for business.
It is, yeah. Your customers can always access your site.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Fastly CDN integration.
Right.
So for those who don't know, can you explain what a CDN is and why Fastly is so great?
Yes, absolutely. So a content delivery network, or CDN, is basically a network of servers that are all over the world, and they store copies of your website's static content. So things like images and CSS files and JavaScript files.
Right.
And when a user visits your site, the CDN serves that content from the server that's closest to them geographically.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And Fastly is one of the leading CDN providers out there.
Okay.
So it's super fast, super reliable, and has these really advanced caching features like image optimization and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So having that built into Commerce Cloud is a huge performance boost.
Yeah. So faster page loads equals happier customers.
Absolutely.
Makes sense. Now, the questions also mentioned like blog platform integrations and AI-powered product recommendations as potential out-the-box features. Are those included?
So while those are really valuable features for e-commerce, they're not part of the core Commerce Cloud offering.
Okay.
Adobe Commerce is really extensible, though.
Okay.
So you can integrate with blog platforms pretty easily.
Right.
And there are ways to implement product recommendations, too.
Yeah.
But those are usually through extensions or extra services.
Okay. So not standard.
Not standard, no.
Gotcha. So the main focus of the platform is on that secure, scalable, high-performing foundation with things like automatic scaling and the Fastly CDN.
It takes care of the essentials.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, this was great.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll catch you next time.
Sounds good.
All right.
See ya.